Hello everyone, my name is Jamin. Thanks so much for visiting my channel. In this video, I have an Acer Swift 3, the SF314-56 series. I'm going to take you on a teardown or disassembly tour, show you how to get inside, and many of the various components you can access once you're in. So first thing, power down your computer the correct way, make sure it's off and unplugged from your charger. We're then going to flip your computer over to access the bottom case screws. After removing these 9 screws, you're going to take a small, flat, preferably plastic pry tool, and I say plastic because it'll scratch your computer far less than a metal one will. And we're going to go all the way around the seam of your bottom case and pry it off from the rest of your computer. It's generally easier to start back here near one of the 2 hinge assemblies. Go nice and slow and careful but firm. Don't put the pry tool too far in. You could damage some internal components. Keep it on the edge. And if you get stuck at a certain spot, just leave it, go to the other side, and continue in the other direction. Now, this bottom case was very tight. It was a little bit of a pain, and make sure that you pry it off from out back here too, near the hinges. After you get the bottom case off, this is what you're looking at for the inside of your computer. Now, as a general computer repair side note, whenever I'm working on a computer in my shop, it's sitting on an anti-static mat. Either that or an anti-static bracelet are great ideas to avoid damaging anything in your computer when you're working on it. If you would like any help with tools or supplies for your computer project, as well as any of the replacement or upgrade parts for this specific model computer, there'll be a link above, also below in the description, and that will be a list of all those tools and supplies that I use in my shop, as well as this computer model's replacement parts and upgrade parts. Now, before I touch anything in a computer, I always either remove or at least unplug my battery. A computer is safest to work on when as little power as possible is running through it. This is your battery right down here. It's held in by these 2 screws and plugs into the motherboard right here. This is a 15.28 volt battery, 50.7 watt hour, and the part number from Acer is 8C14B7K. I will have all that information below in the description if you're looking for your own battery replacement, but I will try to have a couple different options in that link I told you about below in the description with all of the replacement parts for this model. To unplug the battery, there's a piece of black tape here over the plug. Remove that carefully. And as with any wires or cables in a computer, try not to pull on the actual wires if at all possible. They can be damaged. Sometimes they can come out of the plug. So just manipulate the plug if at all possible. In this case, it's easy. There's a grip on either side of that white plug. You can use your fingernails or a pry tool to wiggle that out of that port. And I guess the last thing to shout out about this kind of operation, if your laptop is not turning on, your battery may be bad and you may need to replace it, but it could be something else. Keep in mind that a laptop computer in most cases should still turn on and function with a bad battery as long as the charger is plugged in. So if your computer is not turning on, there may be another issue. I will have a video link tutorial above, also in the description. It'll show you the troubleshooting process to find out why your laptop's not turning on and how to fix it. Okay, so now that the battery has been removed, or again, at least unplugged, it's safe to proceed deeper into the computer. You have your main storage device here. This is a 2.5-inch SATA hard drive in most of your computer's stock. It's held in by these 4 screws. And when you undo those 4 screws, that releases the hard drive caddy. To get the hard drive out of the caddy, there will be 2 screws on this long side and 2 screws on the other long side. That will release the hard drive from the caddy. You can also unplug it here from the motherboard, or you can unplug it here from the motherboard. The owner's manual on this model computer says that it supports up to a 1 terabyte hard drive in this SATA port here. So below in the description, in that link I told you about with all of the replacement and upgrade parts for this model computer, I will have a 500 gigabyte hard drive replacement, and I will have a 1 terabyte hard drive upgrade if you want help finding those. I will also include 2 solid state drives. They do make solid state drives that fit a 2.5-inch SATA casing like this. Solid state drives, if you don't know, they're much faster and they break less. So I will also include in that list a 500 gigabyte solid state drive that will fit in this port for a nice upgrade. and I will include a 1 terabyte solid state drive if you're looking to fully upgrade this storage area here. On the right side of the screen, you'll notice here, this is a solid state drive, M.2 port here. It'll screw down here or it'll screw down here. So you're looking at a 2280 or a 2230 solid state drive will fit this port right there. This computer takes up to Gen 3 solid state drives. So in that list, I will also include a 256 gigabyte M.2 NVMe drive for this port. And then I will include a 512 gigabyte solid state drive for this port as well. Just a little piece of advice, what a lot of people tend to do when they have options like this of 2 storage ports is they tend to buy a smaller solid state drive for this port, maybe a 256, and they put the operating system on that drive so that the computer runs as quickly as possible. And then they'll get a larger, maybe 1 terabyte hard drive here, and they'll use that for more long-term storage. That's kind of the most efficient use of money, to spend a little bit on a nice solid-state drive that's limited in size for the operating system, and then to spend a little bit on a large hard drive. If you would like to understand the difference between hard drives and solid-state drives, as well as the difference between various kinds of solid-state drives, there will be a video link above, also below in the description. That'll be kind of an intro tutorial on how these various storage devices differ from each other if you guys want more education that way. One additional word of caution here with this ribbon cable clip, these connectors are very fragile. Anywhere you see these on a computer motherboard, over here there's one, over here there's a small one. So be very careful when operating these. That black clip right there, that opens and shuts kind of like a book cover. It opens from this bottom section here near the ribbon cable, and the hinges, if you will, are up here on top. So the way to operate that is to take a small, very, very flat pry tool, slide it from this direction from the bottom underneath the black clip, and then gently pry it up, pop that up like a book cover to release the ribbon cable. If you do break those black clips, they're very hard to find replacements for. You may end up having to replace the motherboard if you break that clip. So a big word of caution when operating those. And I guess the last thing to shout out about this kind of operation, if you are installing a new storage device, you may need to install an operating system onto it afterwards in order to use your computer. If you would like help with that, I will have 2 links below in the description. One will show you how to install Windows 10 onto an Acer laptop. The other will show you how to install Windows 11. Your RAM is located right up here near the top right of my screen under this metal guard. That's not screwed down. You can just wiggle that right off. Once you've removed it, you expose this single RAM port right there. The RAM that was in this computer was labeled as PC4-2666V SDRAM. Your computer on board, built into the motherboard, will have 4 gigabytes of RAM. The maximum RAM capacity for this computer is 12 gigabytes. So including the 4 gigabytes of onboard, that means the max you can upgrade this RAM to is 8 gigabytes of RAM. So it's not a computer that has a tremendous amount of RAM. So below in the description, in that link I told you about with all of the replacement and upgrade parts for this model computer, I will include a couple options for 8 gigabyte sticks of RAM, since that's all you can upgrade it to anyway. The way that RAM works is there's 2 spring-loaded metal arms on either side, the bottom and the top. You gently pry those apart from each other, away from the RAM stick. The RAM will then release. It'll often pop up a little bit, and then you can grab it in the center and pull it out of this port. To get the RAM back in, as you'll notice on your stick, there's a long section to the port here and a short section. So you can't put the RAM in upside down. It can only go in one way. And once you get it in there nice and flush, make sure that this gold section is nice and evenly lined up. Then you just press in the center, press down, and those arms will snap onto it and hold it in place. I guess the only other thing to mention about a RAM replacement is if you are looking to maximize your computer's speed and performance, upgrading your memory, your RAM, and your storage, which would be your hard drive and solid state drive, those are going to be the easiest, cheapest ways you can upgrade this computer's performance. This is your CMOS battery right here. It's wrapped in black electrical tape, and it's held down by double-sided tape. So if you're here to replace this, you can easily just pull that, pop that right off. Again, it's just double-sided tape. I will also have a replacement CMOS battery below in the description in that link I told you about with all of the tools and replacement parts for this model computer. For those of you here to reset BIOS, you don't need to pick that battery up. You can leave it right where it is. All you would need to do is unplug it from the motherboard, maybe 15-20 seconds, and that should be sufficient. Do not pull on the wires. Again, these are very fragile. Sometimes you can pull them out of the plug, but use your fingernails or a pry tool, pair of pliers, get it out of that port by just working on the plug. One note is that this will usually only reset your BIOS system settings. In most cases, it will not reset your BIOS password. For more information on BIOS password resets, look below in the description. And I guess the last thing to mention about this kind of operation, a BIOS reset like this is a common troubleshooting step if your computer is not turning on. If that's why you're here, there will be a video link below in the description showing you the full troubleshooting process for finding out why a laptop's not turning on and how to fix it. You have this speaker here toward the left of my screen. It's connected by a wire you see run under here, under where the battery was, over here, and it connects to the wire coming out of the right-hand speaker on my screen, and they plug into the motherboard right there. Now, I will have a speaker replacement option for you if you're looking for it. It'll be in that list I told you about below in the description with all of the replacement parts for this model computer. Be very careful when unplugging this not to pull on that wire. Just use your fingernails or some pry tools to get that out of that plug right there. Another thing is that these speakers are not screwed down. They're just held down by these little rubber washers over the posts, so you can wiggle those right off to get those speakers up. And I guess the last thing I can mention about this operation, it's pretty simple to get in here and access these speakers. But if you are having audio issues in your computer, if the audio is not consistent or quality across different platforms, it may not be bad speakers. You may need to update your drivers or your system. So below in the description, there will be a video link showing you how to update your system and your drivers. Try to rule that out before coming in here and attempting an invasive repair like this. This is your Wi-Fi card right here underneath your fan. It's held in by a single screw on the left-hand side. Once that screw is removed, you can pull it to the left out of this port. It's a pretty easy process to get that out. I will have the Wi-Fi card specs below in the description if you need help finding your own replacement, but I will also include a Wi-Fi card replacement in that link I told you about below in the description with all of the tools and replacement parts for this model computer. After unscrewing it, the only thing left to unplug are these two antenna wire that run up here over the hard drive into this hinge assembly. Those are just snaps. So the way you get those off, you just pull them directly up and off of the Wi-Fi card. They'll just snap right off. And to get them back on, they do need to be at a perfect 90-degree angle to snap back onto the Wi-Fi card. And keep in mind, you are strong enough to damage them if they're not at the right angle and you try to force it. So just be patient, go slow, and you'll be able to get those back on. Sometimes it can be a pain if you're not used to it, but it just takes some time. The only other thing I'll mention about this Wi-Fi card replacement, if you're here because you're not seeing any Wi-Fi options or you're not seeing any Wi-Fi networks, it could be a bad card. You may need to replace it. But especially if you're not seeing any Wi-Fi options at all, it may be a different issue. There will be a video above, also below in the description. It'll show you how to troubleshoot if you don't have any Wi-Fi options, and you may be able to fix it that way and not have to come in here and replace your Wi-Fi card. This is your fan right here, and the heatsink assembly goes over the CPU, over here, between the fan and the vent. To get your fan out, you have this screw here, this screw here. This is just some black tape you can peel up if you're looking to replace or clean out your fan, but not necessarily take up your heatsink assembly. And the fan plugs into the motherboard right here. Now, this is probably one of the most fragile plugs in a computer. Definitely don't pull on these wires. They could come out of that plug. Just use your fingernails or a pry tool to wiggle that plug out of its port right there. Now, I will try to have a fan and heatsink assembly replacement option below in the description in that link I told you about with all of the replacement parts for this model computer if you need it. To get the rest of your heatsink assembly up, it would be these 4 screws here. and then this screw up top right there. As a word of caution with that operation, if for any reason you have to take up your heatsink assembly in any laptop and you expose the thermal paste to air, that thermal paste has now been compromised and it won't do its job as well and should be reapplied. If you would like help with that operation, I will have a video tutorial link below in the description. It'll show you how to fix an overheating computer, and one of the things that you'll see is how to properly reapply thermal paste. You have to clean off all the old thermal paste from both your CPU and the heatsink. You don't want to put new paste on top of old paste, and you don't want to put too much down. If you put too much thermal paste down, it ends up locking heat in rather than facilitating its transport out. So again, if you need that tutorial, it will be below in the description. You have your LCD cable right here that comes down through this hinge assembly. And as usual, the antenna wire comes through the opposite hinge assembly, which we already mentioned with the Wi-Fi card. The way to unplug this is to gently peel back this sticker right here to unplug that. But be very careful. LCD wires are also very, very fragile and oftentimes come out of the plug. So make sure you peel that back very gently. Don't rip it off, and unplug that very gently from the motherboard. If you're looking to get at your LCD assembly, after taking up the LCD cable and after unrunning your antenna wire, then you would remove the screws to each hinge assembly, and your LCD assembly will then be able to come up. Most computer shops prefer to replace an entire LCD assembly. It's easier and faster. We prefer to do that other than replacing the LCD itself inside the assembly. But if you're doing a DIY project, if your screen is broken, it's probably going to be cheaper for you to buy an LCD, put that into your LCD assembly rather than replace the entire thing. If that is what you're doing, I will have a video link below. It'll be a general tutorial how to replace an LCD inside the LCD assembly. If you have any issues with your specific model computer getting in and accessing it, leave me a comment and I can help you out. And the last thing I'll mention in this computer is you see these ribbon cables. This is your touchpad ribbon cable coming up here, plugging into the motherboard there. And then you have a couple smaller ribbon cables here for the SATA hard drive. Also some smaller ones over here. These are very fragile. And I'll tell you how you can operate these so as not to break them. This one has a white clip. This one has a black clip. These clips open and shut kind of like a book cover. So it'll open from the bottom towards the ribbon cable, and the hinges are up here on top of that black clip. The way to operate it is to take a small, very, very flat pry tool, slide it up underneath that clip, and gently pop it up so you can release the ribbon cable. Those are very fragile, and if you break them, you may not be able to find a replacement, which means your ribbon cable will never securely fasten down again. So be very, very careful with those. But that's about it for the Swift 3, how to get inside, and many of the internal components you can access. Thanks again so much for watching. Please remember to like and share if this helped you out, if you think it can help someone else out. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoy DIY computer content like this, or if you just want to keep me on hand to answer any of your future computer questions. I do try to answer all questions throughout my channel at least a couple times a day. Also, feel free to check out the related link section below in the description. From time to time, I do try to add things in there that I think will help you with your general computer life, make it more productive, more enjoyable. So thanks again for watching, everyone. I look forward to seeing you on my next video.